Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin Mommy, and it's Monday, February 3rd, and I'm here for a quick stitching update. It was another fairly good stitching week. I've been doing the Enchanted Stitching Challenges on Facebook, and normally there's 4 projects for the whole week, and this past week it was 4 projects just until Friday because of the end of the month, and I discovered I don't like that. Because I can't really get decent progress on 4 different things in just the weekdays. So I ended up only getting in like 10 stitches on my last project, which is one I had worked on before in January, so it's okay. But in the future, so I really only finished 3 challenges. And so in the future, if I know there's going to be a short week, I don't even think I'll plan on having a full 4 projects because I don't want to be disappointed. I'll just pick whichever challenge I don't feel like doing and work on the other ones, and that's okay. Because usually there's an extra challenge for the remaining days, and there was this time too, that I'll need another challenge for. I just won't be able to share it with you because I usually won't know it that far in advance. But all that to say, I did get some stitching done, and I have some things to show. So first off, a little bit of acquisition. I won a giveaway over on Cross My Stitches, but from Jackie. She was doing a Pass the Stash giveaway and I won, which is great. I usually don't win. I usually don't enter even a lot of things. And so I had seen this chart, Christmas Sentiments by Stony Creek. I had seen it off and on around Flosstube, and it's really pretty. It's stitched with a lot of overdyes. So if I can find things that match nicely in what I have, I'll probably pick from my stash rather than buy the called for, although the called for are gorgeous, just because I have a lot to choose from. So we'll see if I can find things in my stash, but this is really pretty. And these are the same, so part of me wants to not stitch part of it, but then I like the symmetry of it as well, so I don't know. Anyways, I had seen it off and on throughout Flosstube, and every time I'd be like, oh, that's really pretty. No, I don't need that. Oh, that's really pretty. No, I don't need to stitch that. Oh, that's really pretty. And I kept kind of slowly growing on me, and then when she was offering it as a giveaway, I'm like, you know what? Why not put my name in the hat, you know? Couldn't hurt. And I actually won it. So thank you, Jackie. That's really sweet. And she sent me a beautiful card as well, which I thought I'd share. It's pretty. It's a little bit of glitter with a rose. I like that. So that was fun. I got that in the mail on Saturday, I think. And then also this week, my daughter started her piece for her teacher. She still hasn't finished the little kitty, but since this has a deadline, I allowed it to go ahead and start it. Didn't make a whole lot of progress, but she is 7, so she has what's the word? Short attention span. She'll only do a few stitches before she kind of gets distracted by her brothers or by just being bored with it. But here is where she's at right now. She's doing this on 18 count beige Aida, and she's actually doing really well for being on 18 count. Yeah, that's more of the color. It's a nice warm. I use this fabric for a Frosted Pumpkin National Parks piece, and so this is a leftover section. And is that any better? Yeah. So she's doing the little surround for the S in the lighter blue that she picked. So she's doing pretty well. Counting from one section to the other at the corners was a little bit tricky, and she's not necessarily, yeah, she's doing one stitch at a time, which is how I taught her at the beginning, because I think it makes more sense in her brain to do one whole stitch and then move on, which works well for fancy floss, because that's, if you want a lot of variegation, that's generally how you do it anyways. But she doesn't do it the same way every time, and I had mentioned that to her to try to make them go the same direction, but she's not quite figuring that out yet, but it's all right. It's a cute effort and a good start, and she's doing really well. So I started the length for her, and every once in a while I'll take out a knot, but for the most part, she's doing this all by herself. So hopefully there will be somewhat regular progress on that, since it does need to get done this April, and I'm hoping she can do it all herself, but we'll see, since she's going pretty slow. I have a whole bag of stuff here. This is something I thought I would share. I have had a lot more questions lately about stitching in hand, and people asking me, when do you choose to stitch in hand, and when should you use a hoop, and when should you use a frame? And so I'm guessing there's just a lot of new subscribers that don't know my method of stitching is everything gets stitched in hand. That's just how I like to do it. I know there's other people out there who are strong opinions of other camps of, well, you have to have it in a hoop, or you have to have it somewhat other way that you're not touching it so much. And that's fine. I have tried it the other ways, and I'm just not comfortable, and it's not fun. So, and this is how I like to stitch, and it's a hobby, it's for fun, I'm happy with it, and that's how I'm going to keep doing it. So stitching a certain way for 30 years kind of cements it in you as that's the way you like to do it. But one of the reasons, besides being comfortable and happy with it, is it's flexible, it's portable, it's convenient to be able to switch projects a lot, which, as you've seen if you watch my videos for any length of time, you know I like to change things up and work on multiple projects in a week, sometimes even in a day. So this is my Bloomtopia project bag that I was given. It's very large, like the size of a regular 8.5 by 11 paper. It's bigger than that. So I had my Bloomtopia stuff in here, and then I added my temperature things because they were all for working on in the car, and I figured this will be a nice travel pouch to bring along. And then I added one of the first teacher gift I was going to start, threw that in there in case I got to that this week, which I didn't. And then for the Super Bowl party we went to yesterday, I threw in my touchdown piece for my son so that I could work on that there, because he really wanted me to work on the football piece during the football game. So I have 5 projects in this one bag, and I can take it with me. I got a pair of scissors in there and the floss I need for all the projects. Very portable and compact. Anyways, so that's one of the perks of being able to stitch in hand. Let's see, but first I thought I'd show you my temperature pieces, since it's kind of a random all the time kind of thing. Did I get any more done on my quilt? No, I don't think so. I'll show it real quick, but at the very least, maybe one more string down here. But I don't think so. I won't show before because it's probably not that different, or maybe I will, and then you can see if it's different. I don't know. I may have worked a tiny bit on that. My tree is a little bit farther along. Here's the mock-up of the temperature tree. And so far I have been distracted by other things in the car, so I haven't put as much effort into this one as other people have so far, but this is what it looked like before. And here it is now. So I've finished the leaves through midweek, I think, so I have a few more January leaves, and then I did start working on the branch for February, so there's a few more, little bit more of the branch still to go. So this will be fun to be able to work on this week to get that cut up. Yeah, just trying to think where I want to say different things. But it's been fun. We have warmed up, but didn't get as warm as I thought it would this week. These 2 leaves were like 75, and that's the hottest it got. I'm not sure what these ones are going to be. And right now it's colder. So the first few, today and tomorrow are supposed to be kind of chilly. So that's good because I like the cooler colors. We got to have at least some variety as we go around the year, you know. We'll have plenty of opportunity for the hotter colors. So that's been fun to work on. I also worked on my Bloomtopia stitch along. Let me show you. Well, I'll put a clip in here with that because I have the, I think I show the cover picture in the clip. But part 1 released on Friday. It was supposed to release on February 1st, but because they were doing a live stream on the 31st, they decided to go ahead and release it one day early. So I'll put a clip in of my part 1 right here. Hi, this is Thursday, January 23rd, and I'm here for a quick update on my Bloomtopia stitch along. This is a stitch along by the Fat Quarter Shop, and I'm one of the pre-stitchers. So when each release comes out on the 1st and the 15th of every month for the next few months, they'll show my progress and a few other Flosstube stitchers' progress so that you can kind of see what it will look like on different fabrics with different colors and see what you want to do. So this is the whole stitch along, all complete, and they have floss packs and fabric and whatnot on their website if you want to get exactly what they use, or you can kit it up with your own stuff. And the idea is it's a free sale if you make a donation to Make-A-Wish. So I'll put the link below with all the relevant information. And they also have this pretty project bag. And I have all my floss in here that I kitted up using a bunch of fancy floss just that I had in my stash. And it's been really fun. So I'm using 28 count Ivory Lugana, which is a nice beigey color. I'll put it on this white cardstock so that you can see the color, hopefully. And here is it's very warm. When you get close, it kind of cools up. But yeah, it's a warm beigey color. That's pretty accurate. So I'm doing 1/1. It's very tiny. And this is part 1. And I'm never quite sure how close to get to this new camera and still have you focus. So hopefully you can see that nicely. It's been really fun. I think I used almost every color in this part 1. I didn't use any white. But I think I used all the other colors. So that was fun. I love these little baby quilt blocks. Even this one, which is not really my favorite color scheme, turned out so cute. So then by the time I got to this one, which is more my colors, I loved it. Those two are very fun. And there's little butterflies and hearts. Part 2 will be over here. And I'm excited to get to that one. It looks like it'll be really fun. So hopefully I can start working on part 2 today in my travel stitching and get to show you that. So this will go up, the first Flosstube video that I do after February 1st. And I'll be doing these little clips all along, and so that I can show you what I've been doing. I'll be doing these clips all along here so that I can show you my progress and then keep stitching, since I can't show you until after the part has been released. And they're released starting February 1st. So if you go on their website now, you can get the color list and everything if you want to start kitting things up. Although by the time you're seeing this, it's probably too late for that. But I have mentioned it on my channel already. So it'll be February 1st, February 15th, and on until July 15th. It looks like the last release. There'll be 12 parts in total, and it's really cute. So I was happy to be asked to be involved in this, and it's a really fun stitch. So that's my start, and hopefully I'll be less long-winded next time. So back to your regularly scheduled programming. And I think it's turning out really cute. I got part 2 finished already and filmed a clip of that one on Friday. So I'm gonna take a week off from Bloomtopia and work on my temperature pieces. So hopefully this week I can finish the quilt 100% and finish February's branch on my tree and get that all caught up. And if I still have time, I'll start my first teacher project, which is Thankful Owls by the Bent Creek. And I have that kitted up. I think I even got a needle in there. Kitted up with random fancy flosses from my stash. So let's see, while I have this out, I'll go ahead and show you my touchdown piece because it wasn't for any challenges, and this is what I worked on yesterday during the Super Bowl party. This is a flyer, a leaflet. I got my copy on Etsy, and there's usually a couple other copies on Etsy available, so if you are interested. I made mine a color conversion so that it would be the same colors as the Denver Broncos, because this guy is number 7 already, and John Elway was number 7. So I figured that'd be easy, wouldn't have to rechart anything. But then, because we made him an actual character in history, we figured, well, maybe this guy should also be an actual character in history. And so we looked up the number 80. My son wanted this guy to be a Raider because Raiders are one of our main divisional rivals. And we looked up the number 80 is an offensive number. It's like tight ends or wide receivers, somebody who would not have even been on the field at the same time as this offensive player of this team. So this is not a defensive number. So whoever made this pattern, maybe following a different, like college or high school, maybe they have different numbering systems in those, but NFL wouldn't have had a number 80 defenseman. So we looked up the only Oakland Raiders defenseman that was during the John Elway era that my son knew was Charles Woodson. So I recharted this to be the number 24, and it's Charles Woodson. So this is where I was the last time you saw this, at the beginning of the month, beginning of January, and here is where I got to yesterday. So my son wanted me to keep working on his pants to make more significant progress. I still have a lot of holes to fill in his shirt and his pants. So once I finish his pants, I'll go back through and put in the 2 or 3 shades of gray. And there's 2 shades of gray and 1 shade of bright white in his pants that will finish these guys out. And then it will be fun to work on his gray pants, and then he's got shoes and socks and things that are, and a little bit more skin on his leg. So there'll be a lot more color happening down here. But so far, a lot of white. So this leg is done, this pant leg. He's got a band of calf that's showing, and then a sock and a shoe. So that's as far as his pant leg goes. And then this one comes down about the same distance, but he's bending his knee. So got a little bit more white to do on that one. But that was good for, I didn't count my stitches, so I don't know how many, but a decent amount, I think. Like 5 strings worth, I think. So I'm happy with that. That'll check that box for finishing, or for working on this in February. And what's interesting is I usually work, last year I was working on these on the same day that corresponds with their birthday, which would be the 2nd for this son, and I worked on it on the 2nd, so that kind of worked out, even though I haven't been doing it that way this year. So I think that's everything to show you in my travel bag of goodness. Get that back over there so I can take it with me for picking up the kids later today. So now I can go into all the challenges and the stitching I did for that. This last week we were finishing up Peter Pan. So one of them was stitch on something golden or sparkly to go with the ship that was taking them back home to London. And so I worked on my Nora Corbett fairy letter E, because I had only got a tiny start on it earlier in the month, and I wanted to get a proper rotation before I moved on with this. I would like to finish this before the end of the year because I have 2 nieces who are graduating in 2 years. Not this summer, one niece will graduate that I already stitched the letter H for, and then 2 summers from this year. So I guess 2022, I'll need to have 2 of these done that summer. So I want to get this one done to this year so that I can work on the next one next year and be at least 6 months ahead, because they just come rapid fire after that. And last year I realized I neglected this one sometimes if it came out and I was working on it only on one day every month. And so working on it for a challenge is nice because then I don't have to be roped into that particular date of the month, and I can get at least 250 stitches. And this one, I mean, I may need to do more on it at some point, but at least I can get that much. And then as the year progresses, I can see if I'm going to need to give it more time like more than one challenge a month or something to get it done. So we'll see. But I am happy of where I got to this month. A lot happier than where I was before the challenge with my meager start. So this is what I'll show, what it was before said meager start. Here it is now. So this is on 32 count Water Lily linen by Witchell, and I finished her dress. And I got a little bit of the middle bar of the E started because the challenge was for something golden. So ideally I would have gone up and done her head and arms and worked my way all the way to the top of the pattern, which is what I'll probably try to do next time I pull this out. But because I only needed a few more stitches and it was for a golden prompt, I went ahead and chose this color, which is the darkest gold, I think, in the E, but it worked for that. So that's still on my needle. So next time I'll finish out that string at least, and then I'll work on her skin to get up to the top of the pattern and then kind of work on the top down like I like to do. But her dress is done. And I used two different two different overdyed Victorian motto colors for that. And there's a lot of holes where there'll be beads down here. It called for 4 different shades of thread. So I used the 2 symbols for the lighter colors. I used the lighter shade, and then the 2 symbols for the darker, I used the darker one. But since the fairy I did on the H fairy, her whole dress was just one color and it was charted that way, I figured it wouldn't look that bad to have 2 shades instead of 4, because 2 shades is more than 2, or yeah, more than 1. So I think that turned out nice and I'm happy with that. I am doing a color conversion on that, if you couldn't tell. Because the one in the picture is like whites and grays, and I'm doing mine red. And then all of it is a color conversion to what I had in my stash. So the E and all this other stuff will be similar to what's called for. It'll just be my version of that. And then but the dress and some of the beads to correspond with the color in the dress will also be red. Let's show that next because I'm going to do that one into this coming week as well. So I had a new start. This was my Fancy Lady choice for January, was Winter Rose by Lavender and Lace. And I realized there's 2 options to do in this with this pattern. You could do this big full version, which I'm going to do, that's called Winter Rose. But they have another version of the muff that's charted with holly, and they said you could make just the girl as an ornament with the holly muff, and that version of this pattern is called Christmas Rose. So if you've heard different versions of names, that's why. I did not know that until I pulled it out and started looking at it more closely. But I'm doing this, and I'm doing it on doing it on 46 count Vintage Misty Rain by Lakeside Linens, because it doesn't have any beads, so that I can do tiny stitches and it'll be okay. So there was no before picture because I just started it, but I got a nice good start, and that's coming out nice and accurate. I decided to start in the corner because it has that frame, and it made a nice, I think 3-inch margin, so that when I frame it I can see a lot of the fabric. And this is first color. Got both corners done. I used some pins along the way to make sure I counted along the top properly to get to this other corner, and then I filled in 1 more shade of the lighter color. And I think that's gonna be fun. So next time I bring this out, I'll probably work on the roses that are in the corner to get the red color, kind of see how they all play nicely together, which I'm sure they will, because it's a Lavender and Lace. They always play nicely. So that was a fun start. I won't necessarily have a Fancy Lady start every month, because in order to have 20 starts in 2020, I can't have 2 starts a month. That'd be 24. So there will be some months where I either don't have a Fancy Lady or I don't have something else. But February I had both. I had the Crazy Wonderful Owl Family, which I was going to work on this week, and that's the one that I only got like 10 stitches, so I'm not going to show that. And then this one. So I had one of each type, Fancy Lady and then something else. So I'm hoping the Owl Family will come back out sometime in February, that it'll fit a different prompt, because I do want to put more attention into that one. I just didn't have time before the end of the challenge was over. The last thing I worked on for this challenge, I got a little carried away. So maybe if I hadn't gotten carried away, I might have had time for the owl one, but you know, it is what it is, and stitching is stitching. So this is Mini Princess of the Sea by Heaven and Earth Designs. And this is printed in toner save mode, so it's a lighter than it is in real life, as I'm noticing now that I'm stitching it. But it is really pretty, and I printed that out because my original one is really tiny. And so I wanted something bigger. So I'm gonna try, as I get things in Pattern Keeper, taking my cover pages and putting them all in a separate like report cover or something, so I have just all the cover pages. Because it's nice to show you paper copies of the covers, and I won't have all these binders full of chart pages anymore if I'm using Pattern Keeper. So that's my plan going forward, is to get a new report cover and just put the cover pages in so that I can flip to the one I'm going to show you and show you. So that's my plan at some point. I haven't done it yet. Using Pattern Keeper, I decided, I knew it would affect how I was stitching it a little bit, because I was starting to feather and kind of do cross country anyways, and there's lots of chunks in the sky, so I figured I'll just follow the chunks in the sky. But then the color I chose to start with, maybe the second color, but one of the colors I chose to start with, kept going into the sky, and then I noticed I can either branch back up to work on a bigger patch in the sky up higher, or I could go this way and start on the girl herself. Not that much difference in counting. You know what I chose. You should. So I went over, outlined a little bit in her hair with this light peachy color, and then decided to do her eyes and another dark shadowy shade in her face, because then it will look like she has some features. I love it. So I'm going to work on this again this week, because I want to put more, at least one more color in her face to give her a little bit more dimension, and then probably some more in the sky, because the challenge is for the sky. But this is what it looked like last time. And here's where I got to. And I'm so excited. You can see her. So this lighter tanny peachy color came over here, and I could have gone back up to connect it with this one. There was some more of that up here, but I instead came around her head and finished out the string, and then I did the dark in her eyes, which had a little bit of other shadow, and then I decided to use this dark coral red color, and it is very dark compared to what I expected her to look like, which is why I want to get another lighter shade in there. But you can see her coming to life in her sweet face, and I think when you get the more shades in there, she'll look just right, especially with this background. And I think my expectations were off, because I had been using, I have my printout is using toner save mode, so it's toner save mode on my printer, so that it wasn't as dark as it could have been. But I think she turned out super sweet, and I'm going to use her for another prompt this week for the movie Frozen, and because they needed something with the sky in it. So I'll probably work at least one more shade in the girl, and at least one color in the sky, and then if I have any more stitches needed, I'll do what I feel like. This is 2 over 1/2 stitches on 28 count, Dove Gray Monaco. So I need 500 stitches to meet the prompt, and it was not hard to do because I fell in love with this. I am really enjoying Pattern Keeper. It's made full coverage fun again. last year I was struggling with it a little bit, and now I'm just excited to get all of my things in Pattern Keeper. I emailed Golden Kite. I haven't heard back yet, so I'm hoping I can get copies of all of my Golden Kite charts in Pattern Keeper too. I have, I think, 2 of them. 3. I think 3 of them I bought in 2013 or more recent than that, but all the rest of them that I have, I think there's like 7 or 8 that are older from 2010, 2012, and 2011, which is before they had password protected files. So they don't work with Pattern Keeper. So I'm hoping, I have all my order numbers and everything, so I'm hoping I can get copies of those that will work with Pattern Keeper. So the pop-up challenge that they did in Enchanted Stitching for Frozen for the 1st and the 2nd of February, because it was still last week, was related to a Norwegian form of art. I totally forgot the word. I was gonna look it up. Rosaling, maybe? I'll put a picture in that they gave that represented that art on the challenge group, and then I decided to fit this in Ink Circle's tapestry, because I thought that was probably the thing I had that was closest to that sort of style of art. You could work on florals, scrolling, vines, geometric shapes, etc. And I thought this looked pretty close to that form of art. So this is what I worked on. I'm doing my own color conversion with mostly Victorian motto threads from the Eliza Bell Cox pack that she gave away, or not gave away, offered for sale a couple years ago probably. And then a couple of the shades are other Victorian motto colors that seem to work better than what I could find in that Eliza Bell Cox pack. So if I can find it, here is a picture of what this looked like before. I may just put in a picture from my phone if I can't find something online on my Flosstube, but here's before and here's where I got to. Fuzz. So as you can see, I moved my way up and did this whole like green stemmy thing, and they were giving you, in the pop-up challenge, they said you get 1 point for every 100 stitches you do in that time period, no limits. So I got a little over 200 stitches in that, and I may have gotten a little bit more, but actually no, never mind. During the Super Bowl I was planning to do my travel pieces, like my quilt and my tree, but since my son really wanted me to work on his football piece during the game, I did that instead. But this one I wouldn't have done it then. I worked on this a little bit on Saturday, and then just a tiny bit Sunday evening to get over the 200 mark, so I could at least get a second point for that. So that was fun to pull that out again. It had been a little while. Speaking of whips that have been a little while, one of the prompts this week is to work on the whip you have that has been the longest since you've worked on it. And I don't really know, to be perfectly honest, because I haven't, this past year I've been keeping track a little bit of what I stitched, but not consistently. So there are gaps in my records in my little planner thing that I'm using. Because sometimes if I change my plans or I don't have plans, they don't get written down. They just, anyways. So recently I made this with all my whips and the months and if I'm working on them at all that month. And so I've been doing this since October of 2019, which doesn't go back as far as it needs to. So I was just guessing, because there's really no easy way to figure this out. And so I was guessing which one feels like it's been the longest. And I think there's a couple that could probably qualify. But since I'm kind of in the mood to get started on more full coverage pieces with Pattern Keeper, I decided to go ahead and do this one because I think it's probably one of the ones haven't worked on the longest. This is the Young Gardener by Art of Stitching, and I actually haven't tried it, but I'm hoping the Art of Stitching is compatible with Pattern Keeper, so we will see. If this one doesn't work with Pattern Keeper, I may switch to Daisy Girl, which I think I actually have over here. I don't have my actual whip, but this is Daisy Girl, and I have her bodice and some of her head done. I don't remember when I worked on this last either. So one of these will be my project for that piece, and I'm hoping the Young Gardener will work in Pattern Keeper. And if it does, this is my starting point. And I had restarted this probably 2018 on 40 count Vertil 1/1 half stitches. So that's my start up in the corner. I have a color on my needle, so I'll probably keep going with that one, and it'll be really easy to find. There we go. It'll be really easy to find the rest of the symbols since I'll hopefully be using Pattern Keeper. So there's my start on that one, at my starting point. And again, this is half stitches, so if I work on this, I'll do hopefully 500. I don't know how confetti heavy this will be if I'm doing it cross country, if I'll have a lot of counting and I'll want to stop and start colors, or if they'll be close enough to count 2 and I'll just keep going. That might depend on it if I try for the full thing on that one. So that's that. Another one was a whip you fell in love with at first sight, and I thought almost all of my pieces could qualify, but I really needed something not full coverage because all 3 of the other projects are full coverage that I'm going to work on this week. So I decided Twisted Band Sampler had kind of been calling my name. I thought about doing this one for the Norwegian art prompt this weekend, but then I saw the tapestry one. I'm like, oh, that's even better. I'll definitely do that one. So here I need to work on this specialty stitch band right here that goes up into the corner of the far side of the chart. So that's exciting. I can finish the band of orange and then start into the yellows, which would be really fun to get to. So here's my starting point on this one. This is on the called for, what do you call it? Bisque, 32 count bisque linen. It's a little nicer. And I'm doing the specialty stitch version with the called for DMC conversion. So I'm not using silks, but they do have a DMC conversion that they list with you. And so I'm working on this one, which have noticed that it's a little tricky to do the correct tension on this really big stitch when I'm stitching in hand. So I have to be careful to hold my fabric taut with my fingers to get that to lay right. But it's doable. So I'll be working on this week. And this one is kind of one of those with the specialty stitches. Each leg of the stitch is a half of a stitch. And so I will basically just figure out how many legs are in each of the specialty stitches, and then, add it up, divide by 2, and then add it up like that. So that's how I'll be doing it, because everything I would work on for the next little bit on this one is specialty stitches. So that will be fun, because I like my specialty stitches. And the last one is something that you have made a mistake on or had to frog, and I used this for another challenge like that too. This is my Stitcher's Retreat by Heaven and Earth Designs. This used to be a freebie on their website, but it is no longer there. I don't even know if you can buy it. I think you might be able to buy it, but if you can, I'll link it. If not, sorry. I think other companies might make it under different names than the Stitcher's Retreat. But I will work on that one, which will be nice, again, to get into Pattern Keeper. It will really help me, be able to move around extreme cross country. So this is the starting point on this one. This is on 2/1 half stitches as well on Rose Monaco, 28 count Rose Monaco. So I started in the corner, and I'm working on her. This is her head, and her face. And then I did this, and I worked over and did her hair, a lot of the shadows in her hair. And then at some point I worked down here and did this, and then I had to frog it out because it was one off. So I'm hoping, and I think it was one off because I was counting over page breaks. So with Pattern Keeper, that won't be a problem, because the page breaks it's like right next door. You know, you don't have to flip between paper pages anymore. So I will continue going on this one because I've already started on 3371, which is the color I'm on right now. I'll go ahead and finish that color, I think. Even though I believe, since I've cropped this, I think the color with the most stitches in my cropped version, I think, is 310. But I've already started with 3371, which had the most colors in the entire design. But I am cropping off a good amount of columns and rows because it was just so much background, and it's really dark background, and I was not interested in doing that. I just wanted the ladies and the more light bits of the piece. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I think that's everything. I got you all caught up on what I've been up to, and I hope to have a wonderful week stitching as well. Hopefully get my temperature pieces cut up and my teacher gift started in travel stitching this week, as well as those challenge pieces. So I may have a little bit extra travel time later this week too. So I think I'll have a good progress on my travel stitching this week. In the meantime, because I can turn the page to February. Oh yeah, Stitcher's Retreat is also one that I'm doing for Full Coverage Fanatics monthly challenge. They have monthly around the world challenges where you can they're just a theme, no stitch count necessary. So I'm trying to work on those along with the Enchanted Stitching group because it's easily worked together. So Stitcher's Retreat goes with Brazil because of the green, probably from their flag. And so, or maybe the rainforests, I don't know. I can't remember why. They had a bunch of things that were suggested prompts to get your pieces to fit with that country, and one of the options was green. So the lady in Stitcher's Retreat, this lady has a green dress. So maybe that would be fun actually to work on some of her green dress, since I'm also doing this for the Brazil prompt. We will see, but now that I think about it, that'd be really fun rather than continuing on with the dark brown. So maybe I'll do that instead. And then the other one I'm doing for Brazil, I'm choosing 2 whips per month to focus on, since I have so many full coverage pieces, might as well, is Knitting Woman, which I'm not working on this week, but is the one for my mom. And they had a thing where in Brazil, a lot of the prison inmates will knit to pass the time and to be productive members of society. Well, they'll knit things for other people, I think. And so I figured, well, that knitting concept can work to make Knitting Woman fit. So at some point during the month, I'll take the pictures that I do before and afters for Knitting Woman, and I'll put those in for Full Coverage Fanatics also. I also, in February, want to start my needlepoint piece, Rosetto, which is got pinks and greens, so I thought that would be a good one for February. And then Roses of Provence, I want to start, which would be a Mirabilia Fancy Lady start, so I'll do that at some point. I don't know when. And then Full Coverage Fanatics has a love challenge, the 14th, 15th, and 16th, which I'll probably work on Anne of Green Gables, my little tiny one on silk gauze, to try to get that some more attention. So those are all the things I have going already in February that you can look forward to seeing here. And with that, I hope you will have a wonderful stitching week, and I will, Lord willing, see you next week. Talk to you later. Bye.